If someone had informed me a year ago that I would be reevaluating everything I believed about myself, I would have found it amusing. At that time, I was an ordinary 22-year-old working as a line cook at a bustling seafood restaurant by the beach. My life was uncomplicated. I dedicated myself to my job, socialized with friends, engaged in flirtations when the mood struck, and enjoyed leisurely afternoons sipping cold beer under the sun. It was a straightforward and predictable existence until I encountered Martin. Martin possessed a presence that naturally drew attention, effortlessly commanding the room. He was lean yet strong, a physique that suggested innate athleticism rather than hours spent in the gym. His arms were toned, with muscles subtly defined beneath his sun-kissed skin, and his build was compact yet robust, as if every part of him was designed for precision and efficiency. His dark hair had a slight curl at the ends, perpetually tousled in a manner that seemed deliberate. His jawline was sharp, his cheekbones prominent, and his deep-set brown eyes held an enigmatic quality that made it difficult to look away for long. He exuded a quiet confidence, moving with an ease that suggested he never second-guessed himself. One afternoon, he entered the kitchen looking somewhat too polished for a place that reeked of fryer oil and raw fish. Clad in a fitted black t-shirt, his lean yet strong arms were visible, and his dark hair curled slightly at the ends. His demeanor radiated a calm assurance, not the brash kind, but a relaxed certainty, as if he already understood his place in the world and felt no urgency to assert it. Initially, I did not think much of him. New employees frequently came and went in the restaurant industry, most quickly realizing the pay was low, the heat was oppressive, and the hours were grueling. I assumed he would depart within a month like many others. However, Martin proved to be different. He adapted to the work swiftly, more quickly than I anticipated. Within a week, he was keeping pace with the rest of us, flipping pans as if he had been doing it for years. For years, he issued commands with a calm and composed demeanor that clearly indicated he was not easily flustered. He never voiced complaints, nor did he allow himself to become complacent. When the dinner rush arrived, he remained unperturbed. In fact, he infused enjoyment into the demanding restaurant environment. The industry is notoriously harsh, with long hours, meager wages, and the oppressive heat from the stoves creating an atmosphere akin to standing in the depths of hell. Yet, with Martin around, shifts seemed to pass swiftly. He possessed a keen sense of humor, frequently delivering sarcastic remarks over the grill and playfully teasing the waitstaff just enough to keep them alert. Our connection developed in a manner I had not anticipated. Initially, it was merely banter related to work, which gradually evolved into post-shift drinks and late-night strolls along the beach when neither of us wished to return home. We shared conversations about everything: his family, my upbringing, and the peculiar aspirations we held but seldom voiced. It felt effortless and enjoyable. I appreciated the comfortable silences we shared, devoid of awkwardness, and the gentle nudges he gave me as we walked, just enough to prompt a playful shove in return. I valued his ability to listen, truly listen, in a way that most people did not. I refrained from overanalyzing my feelings. I did not question why I began to anticipate work in a manner I never had before, why I became more attuned to his presence, or why a shift occurred within me when he leaned in to whisper something meant solely for my ears. I simply reassured myself that I cherished having a friend with whom I could genuinely converse. That was all it was. However, about a month later, Martin extended an invitation to a party, which he described as a celebration for my friend Alex's birthday. "It'll be laid back, nothing too wild. You should come," he suggested while we were rolling silverware after a long shift. I hesitated, as I was not particularly fond of house parties, too many unfamiliar faces and excessive small talk. Martin must have noticed my reluctance, for he smirked and asked, "What, do you have a better offer?" I rolled my eyes and tossed a crumpled napkin at him. "Fine, but if it turns out to be terrible, I will hold you responsible." I initially regarded it as just another evening, merely another gathering. However, in retrospect, that particular night marked a significant turning point. As I prepared for the party, I repeatedly reassured myself that it was inconsequential, just a group of individuals socializing, drinking, and enjoying music. I had attended numerous such events before, and none had seemed particularly noteworthy. Yet, as I got ready, my thoughts drifted to Martin. I realized I hadn't seen him outside of work for several days and found myself missing him more than I had anticipated. I had never considered what he did in his free time, who he associated with, or what his life was like beyond the restaurant. It struck me as unusual. I was not typically the type to overthink matters, especially concerning another man. Nevertheless, there was something about Martin that captured my attention. I dismissed these thoughts, opting for a clean t-shirt and jeans before heading out. The party was hosted in a modest beach house just a few blocks from the shore. Upon my arrival, the venue was already bustling with activity. The music resonated from the living room, and the air was saturated with the aromas of beer, sweat, and a hint of something sweet that I could not identify. Martin was easily identifiable, standing in the kitchen with a beer in hand, engaged in conversation with a group of unfamiliar faces. His demeanor was relaxed, and his smile was effortless, suggesting he was at ease in a way that I felt I was not. This realization troubled me, though I could not fully comprehend why. I navigated through the crowd to approach him. "There you are," Martin exclaimed upon spotting me, flashing that infuriatingly charming smirk. "I was beginning to think you weren't coming." I scoffed, "And miss out on all this?" I gestured around the crowded room. "Not a chance." He chuckled and handed me a beer. "Come on, let me introduce you to some people." To my surprise, I found myself enjoying their company. They were not the typical rowdy partygoers, instead, they were relaxed, humorous, and easy to converse with. I met Alex, the birthday celebrant, who was tall, dark-haired, and possessed an engaging energy that drew you in when he spoke. I ended up spending a considerable amount of time with them. Throughout the night, I found myself drinking and joking with him, feeling more at ease than I had anticipated. As the evening progressed, the crowd began to dwindle, people departed, the music softened, and the atmosphere in the house transitioned from chaotic celebration to a more subdued ambience. Eventually, it was just the three of us, Martin, Alex, and myself, reclining on Alex's bed, sharing a bottle of whiskey and engaging in conversations about life, work, and the myriad topics that intoxicated individuals often discuss when the outside world feels distant. At that moment, I was unaware that I was on the brink of something significant, something for which I was not yet prepared. The night had transformed into a quieter, hazier experience, where time seemed to slow down and the outside world faded away. Alex's bedroom was softly illuminated by a bedside lamp, with music still playing faintly in the background, though most of the guests had already left. It was just the three of us, sprawled on the bed, the whiskey bottle gradually emptying with each round. I felt pleasantly buzzed, relaxed but not overly intoxicated. Martin lay on his back, one arm behind his head, gazing at the ceiling as if lost in contemplation, while Alex leaned against the pillows, a lazy smile on his face, swirling the whiskey bottle between his fingers. The atmosphere was comfortable and easy, as we discussed everything and nothing, difficult customers at work, peculiar travel anecdotes, and the kind of philosophical musings that arise when one is just inebriated enough to believe they are being insightful. Then, the conversation took a turn. "I feel like most people don't really know me," Alex reflected, tilting the bottle to his lips. "They think they do, but they only know the version I choose to show them." I let out a soft laugh, inquiring, "So, who is the real you?" Alex's lips curled slightly, but he hesitated to respond, his gaze shifting to Martin, and an unspoken understanding seemed to pass between them. Martin sat up slightly, shifting onto his elbow. "He means," he said, his tone casual yet firm, "that most people don't know he's gay." The words settled in the air like a pin dropping in a silent room, neither a bomb nor an explosion, just a quiet statement of fact. I blinked, my mind taking a moment to catch up. Alex simply grinned, running a hand through his dark hair. "Yeah, it's not a big deal or anything, just not something I share with everyone." I nodded slowly, surprised but not shocked. It didn't change who Alex was. It was merely new information. Marmar observed me closely, as if assessing my reaction. "You're cool with that, right?" he asked. "Yeah," I replied, "because I was." "Why wouldn't I be?" Alex smirked. "Some guys get weird about it." "I'm not some guys," Martin replied with a small, knowing smile. Then Alex turned his head toward Martin and asked, "And what about you?" Martin's expression remained unchanged as he leaned back against the headboard, stretching his arms overhead. "Same," he said easily. I stared at him, processing. "Same?" I echoed. "You're telling me you're gay?" Martin smirked. I'm telling you I'm not straight. That revelation hit differently. I had known Martin for over a month, working side by side and spending countless hours together, yet this had never crossed my mind. I fell silent for a moment, trying to process the information. Alex noticed. "Didn't see that coming, huh?" he said. I scoffed, rubbing my jaw. "Guess not." Martin watched me intently, his usual smirk softening, less teasing. "Is that a problem?" "No," I said immediately, because it wasn't. I meant it, nothing had changed, just an unexpected revelation. Martin nodded, his gaze lingering on me a moment longer than usual before he grinned, the easygoing energy returning. It was cool, but something had shifted. I couldn't quite identify it yet, but I felt it. The conversation resumed, the three of us falling back into a comfortable rhythm, though it lingered in the back of my mind. I found myself repeatedly contemplating a notion I had never previously examined. I had never looked at another man with curiosity or considered what it might signify or how it could feel. However, with Martin seated nearby, exuding relaxation and confidence, my thoughts began to falter. I realized I was observing him more intently than appropriate, noticing details I had overlooked before, the way his fingers absent-mindedly tapped against the whiskey bottle, how his shirt fit snugly against his chest, and the curve of his lips when he smiled. What was I doing? I dismissed the thought, taking another sip of whiskey to push away the oddity. It was merely the alcohol, I reassured myself. Yet, when Alex shifted beside me, his arm brushing against mine, he posed a question that caught me off guard. "Have you ever thought about it?" he inquired. I frowned, unsure of what he meant. Alex smirked, as if he already had the answer. My body tensed before my mind caught up. "No, not really," I replied, though my response felt weaker than intended. Martin regarded me for a long moment, his expression inscrutable. Then, unexpectedly, he reached out, his fingers lightly grazing my chest, tentative and exploratory. I froze. It was a subtle gesture, yet it ignited a slow, smoldering warmth where he had touched me. Before I could fully comprehend the situation, Alex moved closer, his hand finding my arm with a touch that was equally gentle and intentional. I should have withdrawn, but I remained still, my pulse racing, my skin aflame, and my thoughts in disarray. Then, Alex leaned in and kissed me. His lips were warm, firm, and purposeful. It was not aggressive at first, it was slow and tentative, allowing me the opportunity to pull away, yet I did not. I remained motionless, breathless, and unblinking, my mind a chaotic jumble of fragmented thoughts. Colliding with one another, we struggled to comprehend the unfolding situation. I had never been involved with these guys, so why was I not putting a stop to this? Alex withdrew slightly to meet my gaze, his dark eyes searching mine, his warm breath brushing against my skin. I swallowed hard, my heart racing. A soft chuckle came from my right, it was Martin, who had moved closer without my notice, his body now mere inches from mine. His expression had shifted, becoming deeper and more intense, as if he were deciphering every thought in my mind. Alex leaned in once more, his fingers lightly tracing my arm, anchoring me in the moment. When he kissed me this time, it was more assertive, as if he was fully aware of his intentions, and to my surprise, I kissed him back. It was spontaneous, not something I had planned, it simply occurred. The instant my lips met his, something within me shattered, an unfamiliar sensation that felt too immense to articulate. Then, I felt another touch. Martin's hand glided up my chest, his fingers barely brushing the fabric of my shirt, sending a shiver through my entire being. It was as if my nerves had been rewired, making every inch of my skin acutely aware. I turned my head, my breath unsteady, and found Martin right there, observing me. He didn't ask for permission, he didn't hesitate. He kissed me, and it was entirely different. While Alex's kiss had been playful and teasing, Martin's was deliberate, slow, and profound, as if he wanted me to savor every moment. And indeed, I did. A soft sound escaped my lips before I could contain it, and in that instant, everything unraveled. My hands moved instinctively, clutching Martin's shirt and drawing him closer. I was oblivious to the whiskey bottle tumbling to the floor, indifferent to the rapid pace of events. All I knew was that my body was not resisting, it was embracing the moment, yearning for more. Martin's fingers slipped beneath my shirt, grazing my stomach. I felt as though my skin was ablaze, my breath caught in my throat, and my muscles tightened beneath his touch. I was torn between the urge to push him away and the desire to draw him closer. Alex's lips found their way to my neck, delivering soft, teasing kisses that sent shivers down my spine. My head fell back against the pillow, my body betraying my mind completely. I had never experienced anything like this before, not with any girl or anyone else. My heart raced, my thoughts spiraled, yet my body seemed to know precisely what it wanted, and I was unwilling to resist it, not tonight. The intensity between us was palpable, something raw and electric that ignited every nerve in my being. I struggled to comprehend it, but none of that mattered anymore, my body had already made its choice. Martin's mouth met mine once more, and this time there was no doubt, no hesitation. The kiss was deep and consuming, drawing me into a realm beyond my control. His hands pressed firmly against my skin, tracing the contours of my stomach, his fingers barely grazing me yet causing me to shudder at his touch. I clutched his shirt tightly, seeking something to anchor myself as my world shifted beneath me. Then there was Alex, his breath warm against my neck, his lips gliding along my skin, teasing and testing, fully aware of the effect he was having. His hands moved slowly yet purposefully, exploring in a manner that made my chest rise and fall erratically, my breaths coming in quick, uneven gasps. The sensations from both of them, their touches, their mouths, their hands, were unlike anything I had ever encountered. I had always believed I understood desire, I had been with women before, had felt attraction and pleasure. But this was different, this was uncharted territory, igniting a fire within me that made my heart race in ways I could not articulate. Martin's kiss was confident and controlled, as if he had anticipated this moment long before I had even considered it, as if he had been waiting for me to come to a realization he already understood. The manner in which Alex caressed me was both teasing and playful, his hands gliding over my arms and chest, igniting a longing within me that I had not anticipated or prepared for. I found myself completely enveloped in the moment, my thoughts having long ceased to resist what my body had already acquiesced to. Martin's hand slipped beneath my shirt, his touch slow and intentional, his fingers tracing my skin as he gradually lifted the fabric. Before I realized it, my shirt had vanished, lost in the shadows of the dimly lit room, his palm resting flat against my chest, warm and steady. His fingertips brushed over my skin with an intensity that sent a gentle shiver coursing through me. Alex chuckled softly, his breath warm against my neck, suggesting that he believed I enjoyed it. I yearned to formulate a witty retort, something sharp that would assert my control, yet my mind was clouded, my body responding before my thoughts could catch up. My pulse quickened, my skin alive with a new awareness, every touch making it increasingly difficult to concentrate on anything other than them, the way they moved, the way they enveloped me, the way their hands and mouths scattered my thoughts. Leaning in closer, Martin's lips hovered near my jaw, his voice barely a whisper, urging me to tell him to stop. I swallowed hard, my breath uneven, and replied, "I don't want you to." That was all he needed, his lips found mine once more, deeper this time, filled with a certainty and insistence that compelled me to surrender completely. I allowed myself to immerse in the moment, letting the outside world fade away. Alex's hands glided down my side, his touch light yet teasing, eliciting an unsteady breath from me. I had never experienced such a sensation before. Martin's hands roamed over my skin with intention, tracing the contours of my muscles, learning every inch of me in a manner that ignited a warm flow in my stomach. His confidence made it impossible not to respond, impossible not to feel the weight of this moment pressing down upon me. Then there was Alex, his touch distinct, slower yet equally deliberate, his fingers gliding over my skin. The sensations coursed down my arms, radiating over my abdomen as his movements ignited another surge of warmth throughout my body. His breath grazed my neck, and his lips lingered teasingly, evoking an unfamiliar yet intoxicating feeling within me. I allowed my head to tilt back, my chest rising and falling erratically, every part of me responding before I could fully comprehend the situation. I was surrendering control, and for the first time, I was not resisting it. Martin kissed me once more, his body pressing closer, the heat between us rendering it impossible to focus on anything else. His grip on my sides tightened, anchoring me in the moment, ensuring I was fully present to experience every second. Alex's hands continued their deliberate exploration, outlining the contours of my torso, and a soft sound escaped my lips before I could contain it. I felt as though I was unraveling, as if my body no longer belonged to me, having completely surrendered to them, their hands, their mouths, their touch. I craved more. I drew Martin nearer, my fingers entwined in his shirt, pulling him against me as if I needed to feel every part of him, to confirm that this was not a dream, that it was indeed real. His body was firm and solid, his muscles tensing beneath my touch, and I could sense his breath catch as my hands ventured lower, tracing the defined contours of his back. Alex let out a soft laugh, his lips still pressed against my skin. "I think he's finally getting into it," he remarked. Martin smirked against my mouth, replying, "Took him long enough." I might have formulated a response or a defense, but then Martin kissed me again, and all coherent thought vanished. Time became a blur. All I was aware of was the heat, the sensation of skin against skin, the way our bodies intertwined, and how each touch sent me spiraling deeper into an experience I did not fully grasp but never wished to conclude. When it finally ended, and we lay entwined in the sheets, our bodies still warm and slick, our breaths uneven, I found myself staring at the ceiling, attempting to comprehend the whirlwind of events that had just transpired. The situation was incomprehensible to me, as I was no longer the same individual I had been just hours earlier. Something profound had shifted within me, an undeniable change that I could not reverse. Martin shifted next to me, his fingers tracing gentle patterns along my arm, his touch now softer and almost absent-minded. "Are you all right?" he murmured. I turned to meet his gaze, his dark eyes were steady, observing me intently. I swallowed hard, struggling to articulate my feelings, but no words came to mind, nothing could adequately convey the sensations coursing through me, the lingering warmth of his touch, or the whirlwind of thoughts that filled my mind, thoughts I was not prepared to voice. So, I simply nodded and replied quietly, "Yeah, I'm okay." Alex chuckled from my other side, his voice laced with sleepiness and contentment. "Better than okay, I'd say." I let out a breathless laugh, shaking my head in response. "Yeah, maybe." A comfortable silence enveloped us then, one that did not require words to fill the space. As I lay there, feeling the weight of their bodies beside me and the steady rhythm of their breathing, I came to a realization: this was not a fleeting encounter. It was not merely a moment of passion or a late-night mistake I would wish to forget by morning. This was something genuine, and I craved more. I had convinced myself that it was just a wild experience that would not repeat, but deep down, I knew better. The moment I saw Martin again at work, effortlessly flipping pans as if nothing had changed, I understood that I was in trouble. Everything had changed. Now, when he looked at me, there was an unspoken understanding between us, something we did not articulate but both recognized. When he brushed past me, our arms grazing, his fingers lingering just a moment longer than necessary, I felt it all over again, the heat, the tension, the undeniable attraction that neither of us could dismiss. And so, it happened again, and again, and again. After a long shift, when we were too energized to head home, we unexpectedly ended up in the backseat of his car, inhaling each other's presence as if it were essential for our survival. There were moments, particularly late at night when the world was still and devoid of onlookers, that I found myself at his doorstep, acting on impulse. He drew me inside before I had the chance to reconsider. Occasionally, it was with Alex again, as the three of us gravitated back to that familiar space, rekindling the same intensity that had ignited everything. We refrained from discussing its significance or assigning any labels, it simply belonged to us.